So, hello and welcome to the Creative Cartography with Roseann Hanson. We're so glad you're all joining us today. My name is Billy Joe Reed, and I'm on the Wild Wonder team, which is hosting the class today. The Wild Wonder Foundation is dedicated to encouraging nature connection and conservation through attention, curiosity, art, and science, and community. You can learn more about the work at wildwonder.org. We are grateful to today's teacher, Roseann Hanson, who is the founding board member of the Wild Wonder, as well as as being an author, lifelong nature journaler, and educator with decades of teaching experience. Roseann is donating her time today to teach this class, and all funds raised will support Wild Wonder. Thank you for your support and for helping share the joy of nature journaling with others through your generosity. A few quick notes before we begin. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Lena, who is helping backstage because this is a webinar. Your camera and mics will be disabled. This is a 90-minute class, and we will take questions near the end. So please, if possible, use the Q&A for all questions. That sort of just helps Lena and I make sure that we don't miss anything today. We'll go ahead and get started. Today, we would love to see your pictures and your drawings from today's session. So if you're on social media, if you can please use the hashtag Wild Wonder Foundation and tag us at Wild Wonder Foundation. If you're in the Wonderland, we would love to see it in the live feeds as well. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Roseann. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Billy Joe and Lena. We are going to get started. Thank you, team, and welcome. What we're going to do today is start with a slideshow. I did a lot of research into different types of cartography, kind of a little bit of history because it's really fascinating. What is it? And then at the end, we're going to go on a little mini field trip, and we're going to practice doing one of the 4 types of maps I'm going to introduce. And you can draw along or just watch. Because I'll encourage you to create your own maps, even if it's just a made up place to practice. So let's get started. Okay. All right, you should be seeing my screen with, I want to make sure you can see my
yes, we see your screen. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, I'll be coming back to that. Well, welcome. I am Roseann Hanson, Creative Cartography for Nature Journaling. As Billy Joe said, I am one of the co-founders of the Wild Wonder Foundation. And I also have been nature journaling for 50 years, since I was, well over 50 years, because I was about 8 years old when I started journaling. And I'm author of Nature Journaling for a Wildlife, which is a workshop in a book, Master of Field Arts. And my husband and I started a magazine for the endlessly curious called Exploration Quarterly. So this is one of my favorite quotes. Maps are a way of organizing wonder. Peter Steinhart, a writer and naturalist, said that. And look at this map, which is kind of a map chart, because we're going to be delving into different ways to visualize data, which is what mapping is. This is a chart showing Alexander von Humboldt's physical table of the Chimborazo and Cotopaxi volcanoes. It's super cool, showing all the different, these are all the plants at the correct elevation. There's cloud types, there's weather info. This is an awesome chart or map. And maps are the greatest of all epic poems, whose lines and colors show the realization of great dreams. Of course, that was Gilbert Grosvenor, the president of National Geographic Society and its first editor of the magazine. This map here is actually quite old. It's from a globe, and it's from 1692, but look at those really beautiful mountains, the gorgeous colors, and the fun animals, the strange lions attacking sort of beasties. It's really fun. Cartography comes from the Greek chart, papyrus, and graphen, write. The study and practice of making and using maps is what cartography is. And it combines my favorite things, science, aesthetics, and technique to model ways that communicate spatial information effectively, or just data effectively. That's another, it's going to be a way of mapping we're going to talk about that just shows data. What is this? Well, I think humans have been mapping for a very long time. This is what I think of, and many anthropologists think of as a Stone Age map from, this is in Namibia, maybe 6,000 years old. They believe this is a map of the valley at Twyfelfontein, showing those are water holes with animals and all sorts of other data about how big they are, where they are. They even think it says how much water is in them. Really interesting. And the whole Twyfelfontein complex is actually filled with animal drawings. It's like a field guide of animals. All right, back to maps. Humans have been doing this a long time. The Babylonian map was circular, and you'll see that through time, that this was a common theme where the world was seen as round place surrounded by water, and this river ran around the outside of it. Look at this. This is interesting. Ptolemy's map, which Ptolemy was an astronomer and an astrologer. He actually created the first longitude and latitude system, which we use to this day. And look at how accurate. There's Italy, Greece. It's really fascinating. However, then the Dark Ages came. So for 1,000 years, we sort of lost all this information, but it slowly came back. So now we're in 7th century Europe. And look what's back. The kind of, they call it a T&O map or an OT map, for the circle with the letter T was common, showing Asia, Europe, and Africa. And the Mappa Mundi, 14th century Europe, still using that round, surrounded by the ocean or river. They called it the Great River. But this is a fascinating, huge 4 by 5 foot calfskin, and that's ink with ochre. It's really cool. But here's where we start seeing what we know today as the type of mapping that is most common, and that was all the way in the back, not too much later, the 18th century. So the Cassini family, with using new tools, theodolites, triangulation, trigonometry, binocular lenses, so they could see things and use triangulation. These are the types of maps they created in France. Absolutely beautiful, accurate, and changed the world. And finally, mapping became super important for our explorations. These are the maps and journals of Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. They were tasked with the core of discovery to explore Western North America and map and record everything that they saw. So their maps are beautiful. We're going to see some examples of that. So how do you choose what kind of map to do in your journal? The thing you want to start with is ask yourself, what is the story I am trying to tell? Is it the story of a trip, like the core of discovery? Is it the story of one special place, like your backyard or your favorite park? Or is it some fascinating nature detail? So the next thing you want to ask yourself then, in deciding what type of map we want to use in our journals, is what media are you using? And what type of journal do you have? Is it a big one? Is it a small one? What is the paper? If it's watercolor paper, then you can use wet media. But if it's a smooth text stock and a small journal, you'd best maybe stick to pen and ink, or colored pencils or colored ink. And when do you create your maps? Is it going to be all in the field during a trip, during a field trip or a long trip? Or do you have time to work on it back in a studio environment? That's important to think of too, because that helps you plan just how extensive you want to do, what type of details you want to add. Personally, I tend to do mine all in the field. I'm not very good at remembering or having the patience to come back and finish things in the field when it comes to my journals. And then we're going to talk about 4 different types of maps and what each of these best does for when you're answering all these questions. So what kind of map best fits these parameters? And now we're going to talk about these 4 types of maps. In general, I mean, I just made this fairly arbitrarily because it allowed me to hone down for journaling what type of maps really work well in journals. So the first I call a journey or expedition map. They use visual symbols to represent land and journey data. So, for example, this is the William Clark map from the mouth of the Columbia River. We'll look at this a little more closely in a bit as well, but you can see the mountains have example of landform symbols. The river has current symbols. There's little houses. That's a pretty classic expedition map. Then there's what I call sense of place maps, and it depicts a place, a specific place, more creatively with pictures, often with whimsy. And this example is from Andreas Stettner. He's an artist in Germany and creates these beautiful, beautiful graphic maps. Then this is really cool. Linear or strip maps. These unfold or scroll either on the page or physically pulling out like an accordion from the page, a specific exploration of a place or a region. This example is Alex Boone's poster. He did 4 of these of the Undercliffs in South Devon on the coast. And he did this specifically in the style of John Ogilvy, which was a 1600s, 1500s, I believe, map of routes in England. And it's beautiful. It's a really cool way to think about mapping. And then the 4th way is behavior and data maps. So you can depict things such as foraging behavior, an animal depending a territory, birdsong, flower blooms, anything that is data visually. And that's really fun. And that is a type of mapping. All right, let's look a little bit more closely at each one and see some more examples of each type of map. And I hope what I'm doing here is giving you ideas and sparking your imagination, and maybe one of these will resonate with you. So if what you're depicting is, say, a journey, say you're taking a hike or a canoe trip or a long drive overland journey, then I think the expedition map is what you want to aim for. And what do these look like? Well, here's a great example from Kim McNett. You're looking for simple ways to represent things like mountains. You don't draw the whole mountain range, you couldn't possibly. So you have little symbols of peaks. And if you're, in sand dunes, you might have a slightly different one. We'll look at the symbols in a bit. But I love how Kim even puts in the little sea monster at the bottom. Really fun. So that's a great example. Simple pen and ink. Here's another one, pen and ink. Again, symbols, mountains are stylized, but you really get a sense of this expedition. This is Roald Amundsen's South Pole expedition, graphically imagined by Gordon Home. And you can see how he did the mountains. Very much gives us a sense of the place. But again, simple pen and ink. Now, this is kind of a hybrid. Kim McNett's again. This shows more information, and it's specifically a trip to Grulink Lake. And she puts in a lot of information with these great pullouts, showing the glaciers above, the iceberg, poking up in the lake and numbers them, and even does all sorts of other information. How high, how big, what their volume is. Really, really cool. So this is what I was talking about when I say cartographic features and elements. You want to make sure you develop a kind of lexicon of symbols for the place that you're going. So you would practice ahead of time. So if you're going to a desert, you would develop a little symbols for what a desert is like, or a grassland. Practice representing canyons, mesas, big mountains, hills versus bumpy dunes, conifers versus broadleaf. Here's a meadow, how to do coastlines and deltas and things like that. Then always make sure you have a legend explaining what your symbols are. Don't forget a compass rose or just a north arrow showing which way to orient your viewer, including yourself. All right, so in this case, strip maps, we call them, or linear maps. Here's the Ogilvy. Oh, it's 1675. It's off. That is representing a journey. So you start on the left, you go down, and then it comes up and you go up to the next one, and then you go down, go up to the next one, and you go down. So you're literally following it like the down the strips. And you're not seeing the entire landscape, just what's along this road or trail like Alex's. And these are really fun for road trips, especially. For example, here's how I do mine in my journals when we're on long overland journeys. So this was like a 1,000-kilometer trip across Australia. We were on the Great Central Road and the Kanisu Highway here, and we were traveling up here, and you can see I put little features: dead camel, a borehole, what the name of the native people's land, some plants, and then here we hit the Great Western Road, and then you turn the page, and my map continues on the next page. And it actually just keeps going in a strip through the entire time we were in Australia. So I would turn the next page and the next, and I'll show you another example of that in Baja. So I drew the Baja Peninsula, showing our journey this way. And let's see, here it is. I'll flip the pages for you in a video. Hopefully that's showing. If the video's not playing, let me know, Lena or Billy Joe.
It is playing. It looks good.
Okay, awesome. So you can see there the peninsula, the map coming down, the camps I numbered 1, 2, 3, and it just keeps going. And that's another way to do a journey. And the peninsula lent itself really well to this type of map. And then you add features. I had the, I'm going to speed that up a little there. And then finally, showing our destination at the whale watching camp, and I did a map, aerial map of the camp where we were and the lagoon. So that's another way to do it. For strip maps, you can also use an accordion. So cut a piece of larger paper, or maybe this was, I think, a 14-inch paper, and I cut it into strips, and I keep it in the front of my journal. I keep several of these in case I want to make a little strip map. Here's that same journey showing a little bit more refined. There's my little dead camel, and a little bit more decorative there. You can either glue it into your journal, like so. Remember to leave a blank spot in the back, and then it just boinks out when you get to that page. Or save envelopes and put those in the front of your journal in a pocket, a clear one, and slip it into there or in a pocket. So strip maps can be, interactive, really fun. This might be my favorite type of map, the sense of place maps. So let's dive into what some examples are. Here's Andreas's map. Beautiful representation with stylized trees and foliage. He didn't go crazy, and made a nice border. He's got everything labeled, a nice headline, and then pulled out 3 species, the deer, the hawk, and the flower, and wrote them down, and their names, and their genus and species. Beautiful compass rose. It's really worth practicing drawing compass roses. This is a work in progress I'm doing, a map of the San Pedro River, which is going to be actually, it's a big fold out accordion map that's going to be in an updated version of my book, The San Pedro River, a discovery guide. I wrote a natural history guide to the river, but now it's going to have this pullout map with all these illustrations, and you can see the whimsy. I've got the cuckoo sitting on the road, like a wire. I put animal tracks, and you can just have fun. Here's another way to do it. Go crazy. Anton Thomas, follow him on social media. He does these incredible maps. He's Australian. This is his map of the United States, and he fills in the areas with stylized mountains, cactuses, funny little, here's Tombstone, here's the Chiricahua Mountains with the spires, there's a bobkitty over there. Really, really fun. So that's another way you could draw a map in your journal. Dana Ross did this beautiful map of Lake Tahoe. And again, stylized, here's just some, like, this is a more urban place. She's got trees, and she labeled the town Sunnyside with a little sun, which is cute. Very, very fun way to do it. But it doesn't even have to be like an exact representation of the place. I love the way Pat did this. Her trip, she called it Sand and Sea and Snow. And she did just a triangle: home, then they went to Sequoia, and then Morro Bay. Or actually, I got it backwards. Here they went Morro Bay first, then Sequoia, and then home. And just did some symbols, clearly more the ocean. I love this. And then details from the journey. Very simple. Didn't take her very long at all. Perfect map. She even has scale and distance. So, and then this is another way to think of it. Maureen thought in really like zoom out. So wilderness all the way down to home. Me, her kitty, her neighborhood, her town. And I love that she's got 2 different views going on here. Here's looking down. So here's her neighborhood. And then this other part with the crow and her kitty and the trees are looking forward, as is the wilderness. Really like this. And you can think outside the box here, if you will. Love that. And then finally, our behavior and data maps. So these are ways to creatively, oops, let me go back, visualize data. So I heard a hummingbird outside my office and went out. It was a Costa's hummingbird, and he was zipping around. I noticed after observing him for a while that he was going in a pattern, almost a triangle, and doing the same thing over and over, zipping from perch to perch to perch, stopping, doing that hummingbird thing where they're like looking for their rivals, right? I could have just sketched the hummingbird on the page, just drew the hummingbird, wrote the notes, and called it good. But instead, I did a data map. I drew an overhead view. His perches, I paced out. Okay, I watched what trees he was perching in, which ones they were. Here's my legend. He was using ocotillos, palo verdes. Wasn't using a saguaro, but there were saguaros in there. So those are my symbols for saguaro cactuses. And that is a data map. And then I put in a little bit more information. When he sat on the perches, he would constantly swivel his head back and forth. And then questions. How big is the territory? Was that what I was seeing? Or was he just doing part of his territory? So those are really good questions. Here's another behavior map. This is just a really fast sketch because I watched this baby bunny in my yard just went berserko, and he started racing around the yard. I mean, this is a little bunny, tiny little guy, and he just like went bonkers. And so I drew his path and what he did, like he'd run and then stop and then zig, zig, zigzag, zigzag, and then he'd boing straight up in the air, flip around, come down going a different way, and zoom around. Really fun to depict that. It's a behavior map. And asking questions like, was he practicing predator evasion? Probably. He's doing it for fun. Hopefully didn't get a Cooper's hawk and making it real, but definitely a fun way to depict. Kim McNett did it a different way when she was observing wildlife at a lagoon. So here's her camp. She assigned circles and colors to different species and then wrote how many there were. So here we have around 60 ducks. Here we have E2, let's see, E2 black bears grazing on vegetation. Really, you can study this for a really long time. Here's the movement of I think that's the geese, E5. Yes, the geese were flushed and then re-landed. Think about this one. When you're sitting at a place for a long time, you would take notes, extensive notes, and then come back, organize your notes, as Kim did, assign symbols for the different species, and then slowly create your map. You're going to need to have multiple iterations of things like this. Things like this are complicated. They aren't going to come out immediately. So you're going to want to test it and make sure you are happy with the results. So I keep scrap paper in the back of my journal so I can do things like that, test it out. I spent a day a few years ago mapping the dawn and dusk, well, actually all day long, the bird songs in my yard during spring. And this is definitely a data map. Here's my scale is this is the frequency. I mean, the like a really high pitched versus really, really low pitched. And then this is the time. So here's like white-winged dove, low pitched, and it was singing from 9 to 6 to 11:60. Abert's towhee, really loud and high pitched. Northern mockingbird. Here, again, I'm making some of this up in terms of frequency. Like I would need to look up, get a fancy recording equipment to get it exactly right. But it's really fun to take the leap and visualize things like this on paper. How would you do that? Here I added, the verdins were singing, and then they were doing some little mating, and then they went on. I stuck in, I couldn't hear anything because there was one of those infernal leaf blowers next door. Those drive me crazy. Really, really fun way to spend a day. You might want to try that. Here's another way to visualize sound. Curious Finches on Instagram. Or maybe this was Facebook. Here's a place they were standing. And so they represented the sounds with words. So chip, chip, chip me, or chee, 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 or chickadee. And represented different like soft, distant, low, mid-range in color. So medium, close range was orange, really close and loud. So you can see how that plays out. You study that. Really, really fun way to visualize birdsong. And don't forget metadata, what time, where was it, making a sound map of all the birds. Really, really fun. Dennis Nord, he did a map of oak blooms, and he counted he counted catkins or no catkins on the different oaks. Look at that. What a great job visualizing data. So this is the map, the road, this oak grove house, all the different oaks and how many catkins or no catkins were on the oak trees. So no catkins were brown, green catkins. Fun way to do that. I really like this. Now, some like nitty gritty. When you're making your maps, what are the important components you want to try to get in there? So here's some great examples. You don't have to go really crazy. Learn some symbols, make a symbol chart, keep it in the front of your journal. Here's an example of just rapids in the river, or here's a waterfall, steep slopes, which are like triangles, sand dunes or stipples, lava, I like that, different features of flat rock, coral. This is by the sea, so here's fish traps, a lighthouse. So learn, come up with your own, make them up, have fun, sit down some afternoon and make up an imaginary place, or do your own yard and come up with symbols for things. Also, different roads, and we're going to see, let's look at different tracks, trails, and roads, how you would do them. So here's a motor road is a solid line. A trail is a dotted line. That's pretty standard. So you'll want to adopt that. Water holes or round circles. This particular chart is from the early 20th century for North Africa. And so that's why it says words like oasis, and it's in the Atlas Mountains. So, but look at these lovely ways of depicting things like silt or different types of dunes. Gravel is bigger dots, sinkholes. So be creative when you come up with your symbols. And then another thing you'll want to pay attention to is, let me turn that off for a minute, the hierarchy of your lettering. So big all capitals would be something broader, or maybe that's the headline for your whole map. And then smaller scale, all capitals still, in this case, you're going independent states, dependent states. This is this is actually from the War Department, but it's a great illustration of how hierarchy is important. So come up with your own hierarchy. Your maybe town names are all capital, and then your village names are uppercase and lowercase. See how they get smaller and smaller. Come up with your own way of doing that. If you have different types of hiking trails, some are paved or maybe some are dirt. Maybe you come up with a way of showing a paved hiking trail, or you use color. So think of hierarchy definitely when you are designing your maps. Then don't forget the compass roses, as I said, or even just an N with an arrow pointing north. Get very creative and lovely. Like I love Andreas's beautiful, he's drawn, basically an old-fashioned compass. You can imagine a brass compass. Kim McNett, since this was a nautical map that she drew, she did these I want to say feathers, but they remind me of kayak paddles. So really creative, beautiful compass rose there. You'll want to make sure you also do scale, have a legend, and include a little bit of context on each of your maps. So what does that look like here? Here, Kim did the legend here. What are the number 1, the 2, the 3? Tell us what we're looking at. The scale, okay, so here's 20 feet tall, And here's a person to show scale. That's great. And then context. What are we looking at? Give me a little story there. So for that song map, here's my 2-page context legend. So song was yellow, a combination song and call was orange, and the call alone was magenta. So then I also indicated what those symbols, the words were. So those are the American Ornithological Union abbreviations for bird names. So when I look at this in 30 years, I'm not going to go, what did I draw? I have no idea what that means. So make sure you have your legend, your scale, and your context. So your map still makes sense to someone down the road. All right. Well, we're going to transition now to doing a demo map, creating a sense of place map. And what I'm going to do is take you on a little mini field trip to the San Pedro River. This is the book I was talking about, and I'm working on this really fun sense of place map. It is a huge, the book is specifically about this San Pedro Riparian National Conservation Area, which stretches from the Mexico border in Arizona up to almost to the town of St. David, which is up toward Interstate 10. So this is southeastern Arizona, the town of Sierra Vista, Tucson. Here's Sierra Vista. So this is the entire San Pedro River. And the place we're looking at is just down here in this little corner here. This is what it looks like in this summer. It's just rained. There's been a big flood come through. It's really, really muddy, red mud, red ochre soil. And yes, I'll be talking about making paint from that. Those of you who know what I do with that. The trees, the cottonwoods are fully leafed. All the vegetation around in the desert. So this is Chihuahuan, where the Sonoran and Chihuahuan deserts come together. All the desert vegetation is just, ooh, it's green. So this only happens in the summer. Otherwise, it's pretty gray looking in the winter. So this is the map in progress. It will be double that size, and then the back will have all sorts of data and information and species lists. Sense of place maps, you can have a lot of fun with doing natural inks and paint. I collected mud. This was during the summer. It had a massive flood last July, and I collected some mud. Wasn't quite as red as that photo shows, because the video was much farther south than I was at in July, so it's not quite as red. But I collected the mud, made paint by sifting out the silt and mixing it with gum arabic and a little bit of honey. Can do that in the field. It's crude, but it works great if you have highly pigmented soil like this. You can also make your own ink from things like, there are Arizona walnut trees on the San Pedro River. So you can make ink, which I did from the walnut trees. It's from the husks, not the nut, but the actual green husks that protect the nut, and made walnut ink that you can make your map with dirt and ink. You can also, if you're in a place that has fruit, prickly pear does grow down by the San Pedro. I'm not using it in this map, but I have made ink from cactus fruit. You can do it with any kinds of fruit that you might come upon in your explorations. So this is what it is more a typical kind of maybe spring view of the river. What we're looking at here is where I'm taking you on our little excursion. We are going, so just to orient you, this highway is Highway 90 here. All right. And then this clump here is actually a historic little house called the San Pedro House. That's the BLM Visitor Center. And then this hiking path is that one there. So I hope that orients you a little bit as to where we're going. We're going to the San Pedro house, and we're going to focus on this hiking path here and what we see and hear. So here's other, well, we can come back to these. This is just sort of a collection for me to come back to if we want to have a different look or use this for drawing our main maps. So I'm also going to have on screen when we're doing the different critters and things that we saw. So I saw this cute little ornate box turtle. He was so cute. He's about only about 8 inches long. And then the other things that we're going to focus on that we saw is a Chihuahuan raven fledglings, which were so cute. Buffalo gourds, the flowers and the gourds. There's our box turtle and cottonwood. So what we're going to do now, is come back to here. However, I'm going to stop the share for just a moment and ask our moderators, Billy Joe and Lena, are there any issues or questions now before I start into the demo?
A couple of questions a couple of questions that I think are actually relevant. Is someone was wondering, you might be covering this, but how do you get over any anxiety around getting the distance and the route right?
Good question. And I will cover that, but let's say it now specifically. This is for our nature journals. This is not for National Geographic. This is not for United States Geological Survey. It's a fun thing to put in your journals. I know those, I'm an OCD person. I want everything to be perfect and accurate, but you kind of got to just let that go for doing a journal map. And you're going to see here, we're doing a sense of place map. It's a lot more forgiving. It's not going to be a perfect representation. Don't worry about it. If you were hired to do a map, for it's for the San Pedro River, my map of the San Pedro River that's going to be in the book, is it going to be a perfect, exact satellite view of the hiking trails and river? No. It is a fun sense of place with a lot of information. The trails will be marked approximately where they are, and there'll be information on the back. But I would say for nature journaling, don't worry about exact distances. We can get close, or measurements. So I hope I'll show you how we can do that. You saw even the representation of the Amundsen map. That was an overview of the entire Antarctic, peninsula from the continent, from the coast up to the high point where they went to the pole. So was it 100% perfect accurate? No, it was a representation to show the journey. Okay, another question?
I think we're going to wait because I think you're going to talk about a lot of this stuff, and anything else, I think we're going to wait till the end. So thank you so much for doing that.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to go back to the overhead view share. Okay, so what we're going to do here, first I'm going to show you. Let's see. So when I go to a place, I'm going to show you here. Let me get my different views so that nothing's covering that up. So here we are. I'm going back to, because my photos are from a field trip, July 23rd last year. And so we're going to stick with that because the species are correct and the blooms and everything are correct. So I get to a place. I had the blank pages, right? What do I do? The first thing I do is I sit down and I do my metadata. Where am I? I'm at the San Pedro River, coordinates. I record the weather as well. These are weather symbols that I use, but you can do anything you want, showing the slightly cloudy, alto cumulus, only 3 to 5 miles per hour wind from the southeast, and what the moon and sun are doing. So sunrise, moonset. That's all important metadata for my pages, but it also slows me down and gets me thinking. And then I went for a walk and noted what was going on, and then sat down at the San Pedro house and I wrote out a short synopsis of what I saw on the walk. And that also slows me down. And it let me start thinking about what I was going to feature in my sense of place map. And I left this page all blank because my journal is, these are 9x6 pages, and I'm going to do it that way. I didn't want to do a strip map. I thought sense of place map is the best for me. I could have done a strip map of just the walk using the hiking trail, and did like Alex did, draw the hiking trails straight, however it meanders, and then draw things that I saw on the site along the way, the walnut tree, the turtle, etc. But no, I decided I'm going to do a sense of place map. So I left that space. And what I'll do first is sort of think about, all right, let me ask you guys this, Lena or Billy Joe, if I move my talking head, does it move for you guys too? Or does it stay stuck in place?
I am not seeing your head over the top of your screen that you're presenting. So it looks all clear to me.
It's going to be different in the recording, so that's why I'm always careful where I put it. So, okay, as long as everybody can see okay, let me know if I need to change that. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of plan. Let's go back here. Looking at where I am. I'm going to focus on just this walk here. I'm not going to try to draw the whole thing, not for this particular page. It's also not a huge page. So I want to be cognizant of that. So I think what I'll do is use the highway as the upper part. I'm going to do the river as the right-hand margin, and then draw the trail just about in here. And then I'm saving space for some of my featured things that I saw that I was excited about. So I'll reserve space here and in the middle to draw my little critters. And then I thought it would be fun to do a compass rose. I don't often do like a rose. I usually get lazy and I do just the north arrow, but I think I'm going to, because I want to represent the cottonwoods. So I'm going to draw a compass circle, but instead of an arrow, I'm going to make it a cottonwood leaf. So actually that'll be the first thing that I draw, and I'm going to use a little drawing compass here. Let me get a scrap of paper and test my circle size. Oops. Is that about what I want? Yeah, I think I'll make it about that. And, if you have something round, you can just trace. I'm gonna put mine right about here, I think. Oops, that's collapsing. I didn't do that quite right. Brushing a little bit. So I'll slow down. Okay. I just want to rough that in because I'm going to ink it. But I'm not going to ink it yet because I might ink it in walnut, which I don't think is waterproof. So I'm just making it a little bit fainter. And let's give it a border so that I'm just free forming it because I got my circle. So I'm doing a border here. I don't want it to be like super perfect. And then I'm going to pencil in. This happens to be north is at the top, but you might actually have, sometimes it can be at the, canted, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and do north, south, east, and west. Maybe do a little fun. I don't often do fancy lettering, and I should, so I'm going to be a little bit better here. Do your east. And let's do a nice W. Kate Rudder has some great classes has done great classes on lettering. So there's your compass rose. And now I want to do my leaf is going to be my cottonwood leaf is going to be my arrow. Let's see. Show you guys.
Roseann, sorry to interrupt. Somebody had mentioned in the Q&A that your video box is showing up over where you're drawing.
Okay.
Are you able to pull it to like the middle top of the screen or something like that?
It's going to be different for each person.
Oh, okay.
So it is right now moved over. You know what? You don't even need to see me right now. So I'm going away. So can that person tell you now, am I gone?
Let's see if they can
Yeah,
type back
okay.
to me here.
Thank
She says
you.
it's good.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Thank you for that because it's different depending on what device you have. So let's try. I'm using the cottonwood leaf as my arrow, which is kind of fun. And so it has teeth that point toward the tip. So we're just penciling that in. Here's the central vein. And then I'm going to make the stem come out underneath the rose. So that's kind of fun. Now I'm going to, you can use a ruler if you want or not. Let's go back to our map. And it's perfectly great. Awesome to just use your phone, go to Google Earth or Google Maps, go to the satellite view. That's what this is. That's what I did sitting at the river, took a screenshot. That's absolutely fine. So let's pencil in the highway. Goes behind the compass rose. And this is Highway 90. And then this is the road to the San Pedro house. Like so. And it's not going to be to scale exactly, no. I'm just doing a symbol of the San Pedro house. And I'm reminding myself, I'm going to be putting vegetation around it. So I'm just going to remind myself to do fluffy vegetation. And then I'm going to draw the river now. And the thing about this is a wild river. This is the last undammed, untrammeled river in Arizona, in this pretty much the Southwest, that hasn't been messed up by dams. It still runs free and it runs pretty wild. So this is the winter. So all the gray here are the bare cottonwoods. This can change, this braiding, summer to summer. You'll get a flood come screaming through, and so the river channel may pop over here. It may join and create an oxbow. It may completely do a number. So this may be different the next satellite view there is. So I'm not going to obsess too much on exact. So here's my
Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt. The pencil drawings that you're doing, I know you're doing them light on purpose, but
Oh, yeah.
it's just hard for some folks to see, if that's okay.
I'm just going to press harder, so it's not going to be as pretty later. So just remember to not press super hard on your own, because you want to get rid of the pencil. So here I am with the main channel. And then we've got it coming over here. And then it comes down like so and does a bump there. And then I'm going to get lighter here because I'm going to have it go off the page here. And then there's another channel kind of braiding in here. So we'll get some of this braiding in like so. Now I normally would not do it that strong. So there's this trail that comes out from the house and comes down. Now, I don't want to go all the way to the line of the river, because I'm going to just mark in here to remind me this is where I want to do the cottonwoods. I am doing this light. Don't worry about it. Just, you can see the motion of my pencil. So I'm just reminding myself the extent of my green. You'll see as we do that. So now I can come, and this trail also changes every year. And it kind of comes down, parallels the river, goes in like so, and then here. There. And it keeps going. I didn't get that exact, but that's okay. I'm focusing on this upper part. I almost want this to just really fade away, because I might have some drawings in here to leave space for. And then you would maybe put an arrow to indicate it keeps going, and we'll make some notations. So what I want to do before I fill anything else in at this point is, let's do a scale. Oh, excuse me, not a scale, but a locator. Where is this in the bigger picture? So draw a little box. And let's just do like, here's I-10. Here's Tucson. Here's see, I did that pencil so strongly that it won't erase very well, so that's all right. So this is Benson, Benson, on I-10. And the San Pedro River, I'm doing a dotted line here, comes down like so. So this is US, Mexico, and the San Pedro house where we are. Well, let's do this is Sierra Vista. I may just wait and write that in pen, which is easier. And then our little San Pedro house where we are, I'm going to do a square and write the label. And you can use an arrow and then there. So now we sort of, it's a dual purpose here. I'm going to now rough in my little fun, whimsical critters. So let's go back on our little walk. We saw there were Chihuahuan ravens I wrote about, two juveniles and parents bopping around the San Pedro House Visitor Center. And they were so cute. So what I'm going to do is just have a little fun here. I'm going to set the raven. He's going to perch on this. He's going to perch on the trail. So changing, yeah, it's not reality, but it's fun. And he was like cawing, "Mom, I'm hungry." They still had their kind of yellow lips, I call them. So here's our little raven guy. Rough that in, fun. And then we saw our turtle. He was right around here. So what I'm going to do is actually break the trail here. And let's sketch in our little turtle, our neat box turtle. He was so cute. And since it was nice and warm out, he was moving quickly. It was 89 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning already. This is July in the deserts. This little back feet. And let's give him a little round, because here's something fun I'm going to show you. I made, here's the paint. These are all my feral watercolors from all over the world that I made from dirt locally. So I'll paint parts of this with the San Pedro mud. In fact, while we're chatting, I'm going to get my paints ready. What you want to wet your paints, wake them up. So waking up my paints there. And I'm going to do a final sketch and then we'll get some color in. So this gourd was really cool. And I'm going to use it as the bottom of my map. So what I'm going to do has these beautiful kind of dagger leaves. It's not to scale, right? We're having fun. This is a whimsical map. So they kind of stick straight up and then these vines go. And so we're going to draw. And I went across because that helps tie it together. So this is a natural border. So let's You want to sketch this in, so. And let's place the flower here. It's really cool. This is a gourd, a cucurbit. So wavy. I'm just roughing this in right now. We'll come back in ink and color. Cool leaf. That leaf is really, these leaves are really deltoid. And then we can even put in, where are we going to put? Let's put in one of the gourds. They're not very big. This is a small one. And this one's going to be a different aspect. It's striped. These are really just setting a place marker here. And then there's a few more of the beautiful leaves. Just added some shapes over there. And let's put another leaf right in here. All right, that's just, those are placeholders, so I can come back and ink and color that. But what I really want to get to is our river. Now I'm going to use a dip pen. This is the Kakamori nib for doing ink. And I'm going to ink in my waterway with Noodler's Luxury Blue ink, which is really pretty. So just dipping that. And I could have gone straight to, like, not done the pencil, but I'm always a little nervous that I'll get it wrong and then I'll have. And now let's get some, I'm going to see if, while it's still damp, if I can get just a little bit of bleed. Because I like that look. Yeah, see that? That looks cool. I like that. Or I can even, well, it's, I think it's probably too damp down here. Oops, yeah. I can pick that up with the brush. I'll be able to hide that with some green. So yeah, be careful with your too much ink. Because now we're going to color in the green around it. And also, I want to get this damp first with clear water. Because I'm going to drop in the green. I want it to expand nicely and do some wet and wet. I can also, here's my dirt color. Let's get this in while I'm thinking of it. All right, now I need some green. So what I'm going to do, I keep part of my yellow is I use it for mixing, so it's dirty, and then the cleaner is there. It's all pretty dirty right now. So what I want to do is a fairly light green. So if you have a light green in your palette, I'm mixing my yellow and manganese blue. And I want it to be pretty watery now. Let's get this out of the way so this will focus. Come on, Apple. There we go. Okay, so I want to keep this edges. I don't want it to be sharp edges. So see how I'm smearing that here? Get clear water. Keep this moving. I want it fairly light. The cottonwoods are along the river, but not down by the cottonwoods don't come out in here, so I have to be careful not to get it too far out. Okay. Now I can go in and slowly add, while it's still wet, I'm bolstering see how I'm dabbing? What I'm trying to do here is get some, I want it to start looking like trees. And then I'll come back and it'll be even darker. And this is the edge, so of my map, I want to keep that. I'm not going to draw over to the right. Now let's mix some more, and I want to go a little darker, so I'm going to add my darker blue. Let's see how wet this is. See how I'm dabbing, creating trees. And I want it to run like that. I want it to bleed. Because that's the edge of my forest. Now it's a little bit wet and my page is buckling a little bit. That's okay though. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. Oh, except I'm going to lighten this up a little bit. And while I'm here with the green, I'm going to do my leaf. And I pulled that green down a little bit too far. need to let this dry, and then I'm going to do that in walnut. And we can also, as long as I've got the green, if you wanted to hit some of your leaves, just to do a base. And this has ever so slight. I'm just going to throw a tiny bit of green in there. This is not going to be my final green. Actually, I'm going to, this is a kind of a cheater way to do it. I'm giving the gourd a yellow base coat. And then when it dries, I can come back and put, I'll use the, glaze it with the blue. So I reserve the stripes in kind of a yellow color.
Hi, Roseann. Just giving you a time check that you're at 15 minutes left.
Perfect. So I hope this is going to, you know, we're not going to completely finish this here, but this is something I want you to, you know, consider how you can do your maps. Let's go in. I can't do the lettering, but I'm going to save lettering for last after it's dry. And then I can also come back and add some more braiding in the river. But let's do the trails in the walnut. I'm going to do the road in black. While I'm letting this dry, I'll also want to enhance these a little bit more. It's a little bit too wet right now. I'm gotta get my hand in here to. You might do the, whoops, you might do the roads in a gray instead of a black. I don't really like the gray I have. And then we can do our, now we have to decide. I think I'm gonna do this in the brown, the walnut, and the trails in the walnut. And then my pop out here. Whoops, I
You're
went off.
drawing slightly off
No.
camera. Yeah,
Okay. And trying
that's
not to
better.
get my hand in the wet paint.
Yeah, it must be hard.
So this will be black. Oh, I forgot to do the green around there. I'm gonna let this dry and then I'll hit that with the green. But let's get the walnut ink going. So you can get these great little vials from Goulet Pen to put your inks in and keep in your kit. So here, now you can do these dashed. And the brown just sort of helps it look more like dirt, right? Earth. Oops, okay, so that's wet still. I don't mind the bleeding, but you don't want to do all bleeding or not. Don't want to mix. So I'm just
Sam,
going
while
to,
you're doing this, I'm just going to ask you a quick question that people
sure.
are wondering. What is the name of the pen that you are currently using with your ink?
Yes, the Kakimori, Kakimori is the Kakimori nib. And it's wonderful. I love it. It holds a ton of ink. And unlike a flat dip pen, it could just goes forever. And then I'm dipping it in water, cleaning it out. And actually I need to finish doing that. I dip it and then I'm running it on a test real quick. So I wanted to write the San Pedro house in the walnut. I usually don't do pencil first because I'm really bad at, I just go straight to ink. Because I'm really bad at coloring on the lines.
So we have about 9 minutes left. Did you want me to start asking you a few more
Yes,
questions?
let's do the questions.
Awesome. So Kate asks, in the field, how do you do mapping by observing slash walking without using a reference map, like actual maps or Google Earth or anything like that, that we're doing for this activity? So how do you do that in the field?
I would take notes in my journal, either in the back, in the scrap paper. I would do a little strip map as I go, and take notes visually. I would take photos, and work on it that way. Without the Google above view, you would definitely have more of a challenge visualizing things, but I have done it by just taking notes and lots of photos. But you might do a different type of map, like the linear map.
Excellent. So Deborah asked, with a strip map, how would you show that you are traveling north or up?
Use arrows.
Mhm.
Literally, use little arrows to show the direction of travel.
Mhm. Fantastic. So a similar question, you have addressed this a little bit, but I'm wondering if you can go into a little bit more detail on how do you establish scale when you are out in the fields? This person says, I lose a sense of proportion.
Yes, do your, I do too. It's really easy to mess that up. I agree. I would sketch it out first, on scrap paper to make sure you like what, and you get the scale right. It's just like doing a sketch of a bird or any other or an object. You want to do your proportions and make sure you test it out. I hope, oops, see, you see how the walnut is not water soluble, so I didn't plan that as well. But what I wanted to do is drop in some of my San Pedro dirt here, without messing that up. More questions?
Yep. So Kate was asking, she thinks she might have missed it, but what is the story of the map of the San Pedro that you're doing here?
So it's going to be a companion piece to my book, that will be revised and reprinted. I'm actually going to take over the publication of it from University of Arizona Press. So it'll be a pullout in a companion with the book. So it'll be a large fold out decorative map that goes with the book. The San Pedro River, A Discovery Guide is the name of the book.
Awesome. Thank you. And sorry, I meant what's the map that you are currently demoing?
Oh,
Yes, sorry.
no,
What's telling with this
so
map?
I don't apparently I don't understand the question. So
No, I don't think I asked it correctly. I think you're doing sense of place map right now in your demonstration. Is that
oh,
correct?
that's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I asked that very poorly, so my apologies for that. Going back to your book, though, folks are wondering when your book is ready to come out.
Oh, so the book is out. It's just the map and the reprint will probably be a couple of years.
Oh, a couple of years. Excellent. And then Folks were also very curious about your making of your own paints. And they said, can you explain in more detail about what you mix with mud, fruit, nuts to create your paints?
Yeah, so fruit, you make ink, not, it's a lot harder to make paint from fruit. That's called a laking process for plants. It's really hard. So I teach a really fun, crude method of doing wild watercolor, feral watercolor, using coffee filters. There's like, I can't really go into it fully right now, so I just used the dirt to paint the the compass rose, but I can show you. So I have this little kit that lives in my journal, or my field bag. And it's a little mortar and pestle. Little baby is so cute. And I keep gum arabic powder. And when I can get the dirt, put it in some water, I filter it through a coffee filter, let it dry, and then mix it in the little mortar and pestle. And again, you have to filter it so it's really fine silt. And then mix it with the gum arabic. Again, I teach a whole class in this, so my website has that information, but I can definitely post some more info on doing that. It's really fun, really easy. It's very crude. It's not artist grade paint, but it's super fun. So you can see how we've gotten pretty far in doing a sense of place map that, let's zoom out, is going to make a really nice page. I'll finish, putting in some more of our cucurbit. I'll paint our gourd flower, the cucurbit flower yellow, and just refine some of the drawings, color in my raven kind of a blue-black and our little tortoise. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how it's not going to be like super perfect and to absolute perfection scale, but it certainly gives a sense of place and discovery of how you can add these types of maps to your journals. So let me stop the share and let's go do some more questions.
Sorry, I'm just in the wrong spot. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
So going sort of along with your making your own paints, Jen was wondering if you've ever used pollen or petals when making paint pigments.
Pollen, no. Petals, you create a solution, you boil them in water and make a solution, and then you have to do something called it's a lake process using gosh, my brain isn't on that space right now, but you add alum and one other, not in that space right now, but it's a very complicated, difficult thing to do. So, but you could make ink from petals by boiling them and just getting the colors. So that's pigment in the water, and sometimes it lasts, sometimes it's fugitive. The prickly pear ink, actually, I added a tiny bit of dissolved gum arabic to the ink, tiny bit, and that helps it keep it from oxidizing, but eventually it turns brown. So some of the stuff is feral and it's ephemeral.
Amazing, amazing. Those are actually all the questions. You did an amazing job asking everything or answering everything today. So thank you so much.
Good. So if my website has more information about making paint from dirt, and that is really fun. It's a great way to do a sense of place. I would also experiment with your strip maps. They're super fun. Having them, accordion out from your journal. You can use extensions and things to add more to a map. I could do something like, say I wanted to continue the trail, I could do, a flip down accordion extension that would, flip out of the journal and then extend down, and it would be a long, another 5 miles of river. That would be one way to do it. So I think we've come to the end. Let me share one other quick thing. Back here to there. And what I want to do is thank everyone for coming and urging you to support Wild Wonder. If you enjoyed this free class, please come to wildwonder.org/donate, make a contribution if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. This is going to be a great fundraiser for our educational programs, our Nature Journal Educator program, and many more things. So I hope you will also follow me on wildwonder.org and on Instagram at Roseann Hanson.